One of them is highly regarded as the best clone of YSL Y Elixir, the other one is an interesting creation that smells a lot like a niche fragrance out there. Hey guys, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman, and it's time for your dose of some fragrance content. It's also time for a bit of first impressions, this time around on two fragrances from the brand of Zimaya that are called Abadi Saga and Abadi Opulent. As I said in the beginning of the video, one of the fragrances that I'm about to talk briefly about my first impressions on is actually a fragrance that the name of this fragrance came up quite frequently while I was doing other content, especially when I was talking about clones of YSL Y Elixir. I already have a few clones of Y Elixir, but the name of this fragrance from Zimaya kept popping up on the comment section below my videos, and people were suggesting this one as being a very good, and in fact most people saying that this is the best clone of Y Elixir. I've also seen some coverage from other fragrance reviewers out there, so I was really curious to pick this one up, and finally I have it. The other one is an interesting creation, again that smells like a niche fragrance from the brand of Creed, but I'll talk about the other one a little bit later on. I'm going to very quickly show you a quick look at the packaging and the presentation. This is the way that, excuse me, this is the right way. This is the way that the box of the fragrance looks. It's like this dark blue color with some silver accents. You open up the box like this. On the back you'll see some additional information. There's the production date, which is March of 2025 on both bottles. The bottle size 100 milliliters and the concentration is CDP. The brand of course is Zimaya, which is a sub-brand of Afnan. One thing though that I have to mention is the fact that the packaging on both fragrances is identical, and the coloring combination on both boxes, I don't know if you can see, but one of them is this dark blue color, the other one is black color, but they're so close to each other that it's very easy to actually mistake them if you don't know exactly what you are buying. The same can be said about the bottle design. As you can see, the two bottles look very similar to each other, and both of them carry the name Abadi, but they don't carry the last word from the names Saga and Opulent. So you can end up mixing up the two fragrances, not knowing exactly what to pick up. Just keep in mind that the YSL Y Elixir clone is this one that comes in the dark blue colored box, and the bottle that has this dark blue hue color on the side. Keep that in mind, because again it can be very easy to actually make a mistake and buy the wrong fragrance. Okay, now let's talk about the scent of Abadi Opulent, which is the actual Y Elixir clone. First of all, just a very quick check of the atomizer, which feels very nice, feels kind of pressurized, and actually does its job absolutely great. I'm going to use a few sprays. I've been already wearing this yesterday and today. Yesterday I got both fragrances delivered to my door, and this indeed is a clone of Y Elixir, and to be honest I will agree with the guy saying that this is the closest thing to Y Elixir currently, at least from what I've tried. I have a clone made by Paris Corner, I have a clone made by Latafa, I have a clone made by the guys of Abadi Prestige, and now I have the Zimaya clone, and definitely the Zimaya clone feels the closest to the original fragrance. Zimaya or Afnan, which is the parent company of Zimaya, have gone straight through making a clone as close as possible, rather than doing twists like some of the other brands did. It opens up fresh with a strong lavender note, with a lot of freshness, a lot of citrusy freshness with some greenness. There's the juniper berries in this one, and this smells a little bit spicy, and overall this tastes very close and very true to the scent of the original fragrance. The more it dries down, the slightly darker it becomes, a little bit more serious. On the dry down you'll find hints of some agar oud note in this one, which is not overly strong or anything like that, not overly challenging. Maybe one thing that sets this one apart from the original, at least to my nose, is that, and from my very initial impressions, is that this so far seems like a ever so slightly fresher take on the original. Maybe the dry down feels still a little bit lighter and fresher than the original fragrance, but other than that, this again is the fragrance that, from my experience from the 4 clones that I already have of Y Elixir, that stays most true to the original fragrance, to the scent of the original fragrance. It's fresh, it's aromatic, it's a bit citrusy with just a hint of fruits, and you know, some spices and some agar oud on the dry down. Overall, this is masculine, this is fresh, this is very versatile and very easy to wear. It's a fragrance that basically you can wear throughout the year if you want, and this can be a signature scent fragrance for someone out there. As I said, I found this one to smell very close to the original fragrance. Probably in the air most people won't be able to tell the difference, and the only differences are noticeable up close. When it comes to performance, keep in mind, again, I've had them for 2 days, so I can't really talk too much about performance, but so far this seems to be somewhere between above average and strong. I cannot call it average because this definitely lasts longer than 5-6 hours on my skin, probably around about the 7-hour mark, at least at the current time from my early testing. And I cannot call it like super strong because so far from my 2 wearings this has not gone past the 7-hour mark. Still though, good performer without any doubt. I mean, pretty decent. Price wise, this really depends on where you get your fragrances from. I personally got it off a site that's called Zivada. I think they're based in the Czech Republic if I'm not mistaken, and I paid the equivalent of around about 18 euros for both of them. So they seem to be a real bargain, and to be honest, I find them to be really nice deals at that price point. 18-19 euros, something like that. So you're looking at slightly above the $20 price tag. So it's not that the original fragrance is like overly expensive, but still this costs like a quarter or a fifth of the price of the original. And overall, so far I've been quite satisfied with this fragrance, although I'm not you know, why Elixir is not one of my favorite fragrances. Definitely Zimaya have done a good job with their take on the original scent. And now let's talk about the other one, which to be honest I personally find a little bit more interesting. It's that black, the one that comes in the black box. Again, absolutely the same details: CDP concentration, 100 ml bottle size, and the production date of March of 25, and the bottle exactly the same bottle design. This one though having a darker shade of the silver color when it comes to the bottle, and it's more transparent. But the overall sort of a slightly darker you know, presentation is should tell you that this is a little bit more darker as a scent. Now I wasn't sure what to expect out of this one when I tried it, when I bought it. Firstly, you know, I bought it online. And when I received it and I sprayed it for the first time, I was immediately sort of reminded of the scent profile of a Creed fragrance, which is called Creed Aventus Absolute. Now, unlike the other one, Opulent, this is not an exact clone. In fact, I don't find this to be super close to the original fragrance, but definitely this carries the sort of the spirit of Creed Aventus Absolute, while at the same time it does a bit of its own thing. It opens up fresh, it opens up slightly floral, with a hint of white florals as well. You'll get some fruitiness just like the original fragrance. You'll get quite a bit of spiciness. There's a rose note in this one, which gives it a bit of sort of a floral touch, gives it a bit of airness. And what this lacks in the opening is a bit of the sweetness that I find in Aventus Absolute. When this goes into the dry down, it becomes a little bit closer to the original fragrance. It develops a hint of a soapy vibe, gets, you know, a little bit musky, gets a little bit sweeter, a little bit darker, but still this remains more on the fresher side when it comes to you know, how close it feels, or how close it feels and compares to the original fragrance. So this is not an exact clone of Aventus Absolute. This is a slightly more floral, a slightly fresher, and a slightly soapier take. To me, in a way, this reminds me also of a fragrance, another fragrance from the brand of Zimaya, which is part of the Sharaf line, and it's called Sharaf the Club. This to me smells like, let's say, a mix between Creed Aventus Absolute and Sharaf the Club. I've always found Sharaf the Club to be a little bit more soapy and fresher. This is darker than Sharaf the Club, but at the same time it's not as dark and not as sweet as Creed Aventus Absolute. So it stands somewhere in between those two fragrances, but I've been really digging this one, and lately in the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, I've been actually sort of I have actually sort of rediscovered a little bit Creed Aventus Absolute. Initially it wasn't one of my, I didn't really had a soft spot for Creed Aventus Absolute, but nowadays I start to like this scent profile more and more, and to enjoy it more and more. And I have also been quite enjoying Abadi Saga at the moment. Again, I've only given it 2 wears, but so far I've been digging this one quite a lot, to be honest. Again, this is like a fresher, slightly soapier, less dark and less sweet take on Creed Aventus Absolute, at least to my nose and at least from my early impressions. When it comes to performance, it's pretty similar to the other one, maybe at least for the moment slightly better performing, slightly longer lasting when it comes to the actual performance, and maybe even slightly better projecting, but still it's not like super strong. Definitely above average from my experience so far. Seems to be pretty decent. Price wise, again, exactly the same, around about 18-19 euros, so roughly around about 20-21 $2. This one, even compared to the original fragrance, seems like an absolute bargain because it costs like a tenth of the price of the original one. And versatility wise, in fact, both fragrances are very versatile. This one can also serve as a signature scent because it lacks a bit of the darkness of Creed Aventus Absolute. It's slightly fresher. You can basically wear this one throughout the year for any type of occasion. So both fragrances actually have a very high versatility factor, and both fragrances are very masculine. So guys, in today's video I shared with you my very initial impressions on two fragrances from the brand of Zimaya that are called Abadi Opulent and Abadi Saga. One of them is probably right now the closest thing to white elixir that I've tried out there. The other one is an interesting, slightly fresher take on Creed Aventus Absolute. I hope that you found today's video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one for your dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.